So, Green Ghost has already responded to me. It seems like I cleared up a little bit of it. At least from my point of view, I'm talking about state capitalism. I think, I think that Church of STFU is talking about capitalism or the marketplace in general. He hasn't defined what he means by a marketplace or capitalism, so I'm still unsure of how to really respond to that. Um, anyway, but I'm still want to respond to Church of STFU's video. So here we go.
Hey everyone. I
Hello.
was just thinking, what I should do again is a response video.
Of
So
course.
today I'm responding to the Green Ghost on this video, Is Capitalism Coercive? And I haven't interacted with the Green.
Uh, Point to make here is that he's equating capitalism to the marketplace. So already we sort of see, I apologize about the shaking, we see that he thinks that capitalism is synonymous with the marketplace. So whatever he thinks the capitalism is, he must think the marketplace is. So once I know his definition of one or the other, I can more fairly engage in a debate with him. Until he has defined his terms, I cannot do so.
Ghost before. Hello, Green Ghost. I believe he's an anarcho-capitalist or something of that ilk. And he was talking in his video about whether capitalism is coercive, coming to the conclusion it's not. And he used an example where a guy decides to live in a hut in the forest, and he's got actually a good degree, so he could go back to society, get a good job, but he chooses not to. So is capitalism being coercive by not giving him money and goods and services? So to start off with, obviously, left libertarians like myself don't necessarily or generally don't really believe that we should just let people work or not work at their leisure. I think most of us have come to accept that we haven't found any way to actually run a society without any means of coercion.
Now this is interesting. Is he saying that work is coercive in general? Because if capital is artificially lowered in the hands of the workers, or their access is lowered to capital, and the people who are higher up is heightened artificially due to state privilege, then obviously we have a problem. But if capital is more equitably accessible, maybe not, it wouldn't be perfectly accessible, but I think it leaned more towards equitable accessibility as time went on in a truly freed market. Regardless, though, does he think work in general is coercive, no matter whether it's in a anarchist society or not? And I'm curious to see if this is your opinion, Church, or if this is maybe I'm misconstruing you. If so, I apologize. I'm trying to understand what your point of view here is.
But we want to limit that coercion, and
I don't agree. Work is inherently coercive, by the way. Not that I'm sure that's what you're saying, but if it is what you're saying, I just want to make it clear that I disagree. If that's not what you're saying, I still think it's a good idea for Green Ghost and for you and for others to know that I don't think work is inherently exploitative.
money is a form of coercion, whether capitalists, anarchists want to accept that or not. So, because money is tied to both the way you live, so it's being coercive and threatening your status in society and your lifestyle, but it's also at the very core contributes to your existential minimum: food, clothing, a house. So without it, you can't exist. So
Okay, well, a few things. I don't see money. Money is a tool. Money is a tool that people use to get by in current day society. If you do not have money, you are at a disadvantage. That is, I would say it's a byproduct of coercive relations, but I wouldn't say it's inherently coercive in of itself. Money is just a tool. It heavily depends on who who has the money, what they're using it for what purpose, how they're using it, etc., etc. The context greatly matters with tools, because there are tools in the system that currently exist that I think we as anarchists can reclaim and use in our own way without it still having those state-driven connotations or state-controlled connotations. So I just want to make that clear. Um, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my camera, which is being uncooperative right now. There we go. So anyway, I apologize about that. I'm sure it's making a noise, something terrible.
It does put a lot of pressure on you. And just
I also have to say, just because something puts a lot of pressure on you doesn't mean it's coercive. Persuasion can be pressure. I mean, peer pressure is obviously pressure. Um, these things aren't coercive, at least not in the physical sense. They can make you do things you wouldn't normally do, and I think it's debatable whether those things are bad or not. If they benefit you and benefit other people, it could be seen as right. I'm not sure. Um, if something is pressuring you to do something and you don't want to do it, um, I would say they should stop pressuring you. So obviously, we should attack the core of what's pressuring you, not the pressure itself. Because if you just push back the pressure's just going to come back. But if you cut off the root, the state, then and all of its allies that help propel its authoritarianism, then you won't have any more pressure like this. So you don't need to cut away money; you just need to cut away the state.
saying, oh, because you have a choice, that means it's not coercive. That doesn't work. I mean, if someone says, either do this or I shoot you in the head, obviously you still have a choice. You can just not do it anymore.
But I'm unsure how fair this analogy is. Is someone saying, here, have this money or I'll shoot you? Or is there just a tendency in society to accept money more than some people would like it because it's artificially hidden through the Federal Reserve notes, the Federal Reserve and the way the state capitalist economy works? I think that's an important insight to look into.
Get shot in the head, but then you'll be dead. It was still a coercive choice. Just like being forced to work so you can get money, so you can exist.
But, okay, Karl Hess, as a left libertarian, lived, I think, the last few decades of his life on bartering alone. He lived without an ID, he lived off the grid. Plenty of people do live off the grid and live with very few amounts of money. I mean, sure, they might have some startup capital, but that doesn't even necessitate money. There are examples. What I'm trying to get is where you don't necessarily need money, and I'm still not sure how fair all these analogies are.
Or exist to a certain standard which doesn't make you miserable, is in fact coercive. Now you can argue whether that's a fair kind of level of coerciveness or not. So, as I said, I believe there is good reason for putting some pressure, some coercion on people to work. Otherwise, we do have free riders in any kind of social system.
I'm unsure whether he's saying we should use violence against people to get them to work. I don't think you need that. And pressure isn't the same thing as coercion. Or if you're coercing people, you're trying to get them to do something for you. And you can offer them incentives to do that, and maybe they'll say, okay, that's fine. And as long as those incentives aren't monopolized by you or artificially hidden in your hands, and they can't access those hands on their own or through some other means that they want to get, again, monopolized by you or artificially limited in some way, then it seems like a fair deal to me. Maybe it's not for church, but it does seem like such the case for me. So,
but I would be honest enough to admit that it is a form of coercion, and anarcho-capitalists usually don't seem to want to do that because with their non-violence principle, they always put forth this idea that everything they do is not coercive, whereas a lot of the things plainly are coercive. Coercion isn't just restricted to holding guns to people's heads.
And this is a point I tried to make to Green Ghost, so I commend Churchofstfu for doing this as well.
And just like this example with the gun shows, you still have a free choice. Just because you have a free choice to either suffer in some way or do what your higher-ups tell you doesn't mean you're not being coerced. And to me, this always winds up as kind of a love it or leave it situation, which I believe is always a kind of unfair thing to put to someone, because when you're in society, you've got all of your friends here, you've got your life here, and people value security and things like that. So it's unfair to just say, well, if you don't like the way you're being treated, then just get out.
I would like to agree somewhat with what he's saying here. The love it or leave it argument is unfortunately um, used by anarcho-capitalists for the workplace. They're like, if you don't like the job you're in, we'll just leave it. Herp, derp, derp. It's stupid because you don't say that works with the nation state. You say that works with the big corporations. I don't understand that because the big corporations are big for a reason. They're backed through government. They are backed through force. They are backed through, the manipulation, exploitation of workers and people. It doesn't make sense to just say, well, why don't you just go work somewhere else? People can't work on their own. They can't form co-ops. They can't do this. They can't do that because capital has been artificially limited in the hands of the workers. The access has been artificially limited towards the workers due to the collaboration between the corporations and the government. So it's not really fair to do love it or leave it. And I'm not accusing Ghost for this. Green Ghost 2008. I'm not accusing you of this. I'm just saying that he does have a certain point here.
Goes to the forest. It's just as ridiculous as when people say, I don't like the fact that the US is declaring war on everyone. Well, then get out. Move to some other country. Why don't you go to Sweden? This love it or leave it mentality isn't really something that I accept as fair, and this moving to the forest seems to be part of that. So, I mean, one thing, this is the thing for me. Libertarians of all ilks, whether they be right or left, are concerned about the rights of individuals, right? That is what right-wing libertarians and anarcho-capitalists put as their highest virtue, the rights and freedoms of the individual above everything else. Yet, by actually putting them into society and then basically putting this love it or leave it pressure, and potentially having some individuals' rights violated, so you could imagine this guy is actually, let's say, has purple skin color, just like 5% of the society, and the remaining 95% have green skin color. And they tell all the purple people, either you work for $2 cleaning my floor, or you get out and go to the forest. In a system where it's just, well, if you make that choice, then it's ethically acceptable. The purple guy can't complain. He's now living in the forest. He's got a doctorate, but his choice is to either clean people's boots or to live in the forest.
Right, and his point here is that you're breeding, or at least what I think he's saying, is you're breeding a culture of subservience where people are basically subservient to another class of people who are basically de-individualizing the other class in an attempt to make their superiority known. This is basically just racism, it's widening of classes. It's very unfair exploitative practices that aren't necessarily covered under the usual NAP property rights, etc., thing. Self-ownership and all that. You can't cover all the round of social relations just within the NAP. So anyway, good example here.
No, my idea as a left libertarian is that people have individual rights which are independent of any kind of system. If a system, like, say, capitalism, violates people's right to exist with a certain dignity, then we need to address that. And I always find it surprising that right-wing libertarians often seem to suggest that if people do actually wind up in this situation, and the example of the purple guy is obviously not being treated fairly, then that's somehow okay because they made that choice freely.
It's a systematic problem.
They want to deny that that's actually a violation of his rights, whereas to me that's a fairly clear case. So anyways, I'd love to hear what you think about it, Green Ghost, and anyone else who's watching. I'll see you guys all later. Have an excellent weekend.
Thanks. So anyway, I hope that answered some of his queries and some problems in communication we're having here. I liked a lot of your examples, Church, and I disliked some of the beginning stuff. Mixed response, but yeah, I'll get more to this later.